Another day, another dramatic entry in the lives of Vlad and his distressed mistress. Where will they go? What will they do? All of that and more happening now.
Clara, I tell you, the baby isn't mine!
Count, I tell you that it is. You're the only vampire I've ever loved.
Sorry guys, no Carnival video today. This time we're talking about other things in the FNaF story. Now those of you who know me from outside of YouTube, I'm sorry. But you also likely know that there is no greater joy I get than ripping into theories I don't like. And today, there's something I've been wanting to discuss for a long time. The Immortal and the Restless. The funny soap opera from Sister Location. If you got any familiarity with the theorist space, you probably know about some of the many theories about this cartoon. And me personally, I don't really like any of them. And now, I'm making it everyone else's problem. I think the vast majority of theories surrounding these little cartoons just flat out don't work and in many cases fundamentally misunderstand what it's even about. So this is less of a huge debunk on one specific theory and more of a broader look at this genre of theorizing as a whole. So for starters, let's talk about Vlads Design. Now, everyone knows that Vlad is meant to be William Afton. After all, the dude wears purple. This is such an incredibly important part of his character design, and it links right back to William, and it has to be intentional, right? Scott absolutely would have planned for this design choice and the implications behind it. That's what a lot of people assumed, and it led to the commonly held interpretation that Vlad is a stand-in for William. But the issue is, this whole idea is kind of built on nothing. We've actually got some of the concept art for Vlad and Clara, and we can see that this whole vampire in a purple suit thing was not the original choice. And what's more, the artist actually did an AMA on Reddit, and one person asked, did Scott ever give you basic character appearances, or were the character designs also completely yours? To which she responded, no, Scott did not give me notes on particular character appearances. And another comment, she made it even clearer that purple just seemed like the right color design-wise. So that kind of makes a hole in this theory, doesn't it? Now, I'm not saying Vlad can't possibly be a stand-in for William or anything, but a lot of why people think this is built largely on something that explicitly has no meaning. Vlad does not wear purple because he's meant to connect to William Afton. He wears purple because he wears purple, but that's not really super important. Like I said, there are plenty of other reasons to think Vlad is meant to represent William, but the real thing I take issue with, the thing that inspired this video, is the whole host of theories surrounding Vlad's baby. The entire conflict in the show is over Clara and Vlad's baby. Clara insists that the baby is Vlad's and that he must take responsibility for it, while Vlad denies it, insisting that it's not his. This whole premise has been the cause of, quite frankly, a lot of bad theories. I mean, I'm not kidding here. Most of the theories about this show suck. And it's because a lot of people just don't understand what this baby is. Too many people take Vlad's statement in the first episode and just run with it. And this has led to a lot of theories like, Michael isn't really Afton's son and he was adopted. The crying child isn't really Afton's son and he was, like, kidnapped or something. The baby represents Circus Baby, who was made from technology that William stole from Henry or Edwin. Mrs. Afton had an affair and one of Afton's kids came from Henry. Afton had an affair and one of his kids is from a different mother. And many, many more. All of these theories are built on that one statement from Vlad, his insistence that the baby isn't his. And all of these theories exhibit a complete lack of media literacy. All of them are wrong, and anything like them is wrong because they entirely miss the point. The baby is Vlad's. It's a vampire baby. Clara tells us,
You're the only vampire I've ever loved.
She's only ever loved one vampire. It is a flying, undead vampire baby. Vlad is not in the right here when he says the baby isn't his. He is in denial. He is denying the reality of the situation and insisting that he doesn't need to take responsibility when he does. It's not that Michael isn't really Afton's son, or the crying child isn't Afton's son, or Elizabeth, or anything. If Vlad represents Afton, then whatever the baby represents is something that absolutely is from William. Something that came from him in some way, shape, or form, and it is undeniably his. It didn't come from someone else. It wasn't stolen or adopted or whatever. This is William's. The baby is Vlad's. And in case people were still somehow doubting it, the end of the show literally has Vlad come to terms with that. In the final episode, in the fake ending, Vlad accepts that the baby is his. He buys a kid's meal, and that's their little happy ending for the end of the season. Even going off of just the show, you have no basis to say that the baby isn't Vlad's, because Clara says the baby is his, the baby is very clearly visually his, and even Vlad accepts that it is his. So that just leaves us with Clara. Now, the most common interpretation people have of her is that she's a Mrs. Afton stand-in. This is largely just derived from her being the mistress of the assumed William stand-in, but there is another interpretation of her character that I want to touch on, her being Michael Afton. Now, some of you might find that theory a little weird. See, it all links back to the logbook. On page 30, the book prompts you to reflect on your favorite characters and if you relate to their struggles. Under television, Mike writes, Clara from the Immortal and the Restless, because everything about this place is crazy and no one seems to notice except me. This has led people to concluding that Clara isn't meant to be a stand-in for Mrs. Afton, but rather for Mike, and that her actions, namely her burning Vlad's house down, are meant to parallel Mike's actions. But, to be honest, I don't think this interpretation has much weight either. I've yet to really see a good answer for how the baby is meant to relate to Mike's story. Like, is Mike telling William to take responsibility for his children, or that he didn't build Circus Baby or something? I don't know. It doesn't really ever have a good explanation. People just kind of gravitate to Clara being Mike largely so that they can say he was the FNaF 3 guard, and that burning down Vlad's house is meant to be burning Fazbear's fright down. But the thing is, Mike relating to Clara doesn't make her a parallel to him. The logbook is an in-universe piece of media written from an in-universe perspective. Of course Mike would be relating his struggles to Clara. I mean, who else would he say here? He's not going to say that he relates to a literal baby. You can relate to TV show characters without them being parallels for your entire life. Okay, but what's even left? Does any of this story even matter? Honestly, probably doesn't. Sometimes a story is just a story. We've conditioned ourselves to insist every little thing has to have some grander meaning, and it's resulted in people just flat out ignoring what the story says in order to make a theory out of something that was never meant to be used that way. Look at all those theories I brought up about the baby. Not a single one of them actually engages with the story being presented, because you just can't engage with the story properly and still come to those conclusions. If people sat down and were honest about how they theorized, they would probably arrive at the same answer. The baby is just Vlad and Clara's baby. This isn't some deeper narrative about the real parents of the Afton kids or the creation of Circus Baby or FNaF 3's Night Guard. It's just the story of a guy not wanting to take responsibility for his kid and then eventually coming around to it. If we really want to make this about FNAF's story, it would still just be that. Vlad and Clara can still be Mr. and Mrs. Afton, but just not because of their design choices. The baby would literally just be a baby Michael or one of Afton's other kids that Afton just didn't want to accept responsibility for. If I had to choose, I would say it's probably about Michael and William not wanting to really have kids at first, but then just going along with it at some point. But even then, I still think it's equally possible that none of this was ever meant to mean anything. Not everything needs to be hyperanalyzed and dissected to fit into some grander narrative. Honestly, FNaF is not that deep. It is a story, first and foremost, and if people treated it as such, we probably would have solved a lot more things by now. This isn't to say that people shouldn't theorize about this show or similar things in the story. I'm not against theorizing and trying to interpret stuff, but it should be done with actual care for the content. Theories should not be built off of picking out a single line of dialogue or a single color and running with it, and ignoring all the other information present. It's dishonest theorizing. You want to make theories about the Immortal and Restless? Take everything into account and accept what the story is actually telling you, and then make a theory. Again, this is not a very normal video for what I've done on this channel. I will do another Secret of the Mimic video probably next week, but I just wanted to get my thoughts on this out there because it's just been kind of eating at my brain for a while and I wanted to say something. So yeah, I'll see you guys probably next week.